Oof, man, it's been utter carnage across the entire games industry when it comes to layoffs. Amidst this economic recession, we have been seeing more and more corporations prioritize their profit margins over the lives of the human beings who depend on their jobs. And among the most severe cases of this is Microsoft recently having laid off 10,000 employees. Remember how big of a deal it was when 4 years ago Activision Blizzard laid off roughly 800 people amidst record revenue year? Well, that pales in comparison to Microsoft's mass layoff. Reported yesterday on January 18th, the bullet points here read, Microsoft said it's letting go of 10,000 employees as the software maker braces for slower revenue growth. And in October, Microsoft called for the slowest quarterly growth since 2016. Divisions all across
I think that kind of makes sense, right? I mean, the company's not doing as well, and, they lay people off. That's just what happens. And I think that also tech companies were just growing at this unchecked rate, and now that kind of the recession has happened, it's still growth? No, it is, but like it's a lot less, right? And I think over time, you can't just continue growing 50% every year. It's just not going to happen. So it makes sense that they're probably going to, as soon as they realize that like this is kind of a reality check, they're going to drop a lot of people. I mean, Facebook, Meta did this, Twitter did this. A lot of places are doing this. It's nothing unique to Microsoft.
Microsoft were impacted by this latest round of layoffs, and chief among them were some of the gaming divisions under Microsoft's umbrella. As Jason Schreier reported here, Microsoft is laying off 10,000 people today, including in its gaming divisions such as Xbox and Bethesda. This mass layoff arrives exactly 1 year after Microsoft announced plans to purchase Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. Further details can be found in the article itself, titled Microsoft Cuts Include Game Divisions Behind Halo and Starfield. And scrolling down, it is detailed that some people at Bethesda Game Studios as well as 343 Industries were affected by the layoffs, according to people familiar with the matter. And
it makes sense. I mean, Halo Infinite did horrible. Like, nobody plays Halo Infinite. It's dead. So it makes sense that they're probably going to Starfield 2. I don't know.
For today's video, I specifically want to focus on 343 Industries because this is a studio that was hit especially hard by the layoffs, and it's raising some concerns about the future of the Halo franchise. It's not just more junior staff who are affected by this. Some of the people who lost their jobs were veterans who had been with Xbox for more than a decade. To address this unfortunate situation, here's what 343 Industries studio head Pierre Hint said to employees and to staff via email, as reported here by Bloomberg. He told staff that the company made the difficult decision to restructure elements of our team, which means some roles are being eliminated.
They always have a new way of saying this, but basically it's, everybody that doesn't have a very useful job is getting fired, right? I mean, that's just, they say it for that reason, but everybody knows what it really is.
With how hard 343 in particular was hit by the layoffs, that left many within the studio wondering, what does this mean for the future of Halo Infinite? And apparently what employees were told is that the studio would continue supporting Halo Infinite's multiplayer and live service elements. It's a shame that this is happening during a time when Halo Infinite seems to be back on the rise with the launch of the Forge mode, through which we've seen tons of amazing user-created content populate the game, and that has re-engaged people back into Halo Infinite after a tumultuous launch period. It sucks that this is happening just as Halo Infinite seems to be catching some momentum.
Is that true? I haven't heard that at all. Yeah, I mean, like, maybe it's like, a graph not going down and then, flatlining or slightly going up is maybe a little bit better, but overall, I don't really see a lot of people playing Halo. I don't see anybody getting excited for Halo. Like, maybe it's better than it was, and that's great. But I think the problem is, like, obviously, like, 343 is the development studio. It's their responsibility to make Halo the way it is. But I do not imagine that the people that work at 343 thought that it was acceptable genuinely. Like, obviously, like, they would say it's okay publicly, right? Because they wouldn't want to make their owners look bad. But I don't think any of them would think it was okay to release without different features. And I think that it just happened because Microsoft set a deadline for them or some sort of like state you have to be ready at this time, and that's it. So it kind of sucks whenever Microsoft makes goals, and this is a theoretical, like I don't know this, I'm just guessing, and I could be totally wrong, but it would suck if Microsoft is making production deadlines for the developers, and then developers have to cut corners because of the production deadlines, and then the developers are the ones that get laid off whenever the game doesn't do well. Even though they had to make those decisions because of the deadlines that were made by somebody that wasn't them. It sucks. Yeah, then they were forced to release it early. Exactly. All companies do this, unfortunately. It seems very common nowadays, especially since you can patch things.
Again, it just raises questions as to whether Halo Infinite will have the manpower and resources to really make some kind of major recovery, especially when Joe Staten, the creative director and Halo veteran who joined 343 in 2020.
I want to know, I wish I could have been inside of the room where the leadership for Halo Infinite decided not to have a BR. They decided, yes, this new game mode that almost every single successful FPS game on social media uses, we're not going to have that. Even though we have a system that could probably play pretty well into a BR, no. We're not going to use a BR. We're not going to have it. The only BR Halo needs is a battle rifle. Yeah, there's 7,000 people that think that now because everybody else quit. So fucking stupid. BRs suck? Well, then why do they keep having... Why if BRs suck so much, then why are so many people playing them?
To help steer Halo Infinite to the finish line will depart that outfit and rejoin Xbox's broader publishing division. While he's not leaving Microsoft outright, he is no longer at 343 specifically. He's going to take on a broader role at Xbox, and that means he can't focus on Halo Infinite. And he was such a big part for why Halo Infinite was able to release in the first place amidst that tumultuous development cycle. Jason Schreier added additional context via this follow-up tweet that reads,
I love how there's people that are actually advocating against an extra game mode. In their mind, having an extra game mode is bad. Having an extra game mode that has been popular and dominating the market for FPS games, minus Valorant and CSGO, which is grandfathered in, dominating the fucking market for 5+ years, somehow they still convince themselves that it's a bad idea. It's so fucking stupid.
Microsoft won't share specific numbers, but several employees have told me that 343 Industries was hit hard. This comes in the wake of a long-running hiring freeze and a lot of contractor departures. Meanwhile, executives are being paid ridiculous sums of money, receiving dozens of millions of dollars worth of compensation.
Yeah.
Right here, Jason Schreier made it a point to highlight that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella made $54.95 million in total compensation last year. Now, going back to Joseph Staten, a number of outlets made it a point to highlight the important role that he played for Halo Infinite and previous Halo entries. So this Video Games Chronicle article, for example, noted that Joseph Staten previously worked on the very first Halo titles, among the more renowned Halo titles in the series, mostly focusing on story and characters. Staten was made project lead for Halo Infinite's campaign mode. And then Gene Park from the Washington Post provided additional background about Joseph Staten, stating that Staten was the lead writer of the original Halo games under Bungie, which are all actually cherished.
I actually didn't know that.
He made a lot of changes to Infinite that were welcome. He was very much a positive force for 343 Industries and one of the last bastions of the IP, which he was there for since the beginning. And now with him gone, you know, that's going to definitely be a significant blow to the Halo franchise. Specifically, I think Staten's departure marks the end of additional support for the game's campaign mode, which Staten was made project lead of. That seems doubly likely when you consider that when Pierre Hintz talked to staff about how we're going to move forward with Halo Infinite, he specifically mentioned that they're going to continue support for Halo Infinite's multiplayer and live service elements, but there's no mention here about additional support for the game's campaign. Which really sucks because I really do feel like Halo Infinite's open world campaign has a ton of potential for further expansion. There's a co-op mode that never really came to light, that was canceled last minute, even though
probably another feature that wasn't ready for release. You know, like that's what's so sad about it.
There is a co-op mode in the game that data miners found that works well enough as it is that they could have finished. Enjoyers of Halo campaigns, I think, were really done dirty with Halo Infinite.
So you're not able to do the Halo Infinite campaign co-op? Is that true? Like, I never did the Infinite campaign on co-op. No? Here's the thing. I really hope that a lot of game companies, I hope that they can realize this. Nowadays, if your game is bad on release, everybody is going to assume that your game is bad. People said that problems that Battle for Azeroth and New World fixed in the first month of its game are the main problems with the game today, even though they've been fixed literally over a year ago. Because nobody's going to stick around and wait for the game to get better. People are going to play it on the release for the hype. They're going to see that the features aren't there that they wanted, and they're probably not going to come back. Because the odds are that, you know, like maybe they're doing the campaign and they get halfway through it and they would have finished it if they were able to do it with their friend or something like that. I mean, what the fuck, man? They can barely make normal multiplayer and can't make co-op. There's no way they can do a BR without significant extra funding. I don't know. I mean, if there's enough funding for anything, I would think a foray into the most popular multiplayer FPS mode in the world right now would be worth it. But okay, fine. Overall, I think that like these developers need to stop releasing games half-baked, and then they finish the fucking baking 6 months after the release, and then it's like, oh wow, people are getting fired, they're leaving, nobody's coming back and playing the game. Yes, exactly. It's not the dev's fault. I think that in most cases you're right. I actually think that at most times the guys that are actually, you know, doing character rigging, they're actually sitting there and making, you know, the cinematics look good. They're detailing the warthog. These guys want to make the best game possible. They want to be those same guys in that Bungie video that we watched, the young guys from like the fucking early 2000s talking about how much it's important to make the game even better than just good enough. All of these guys probably want to do the exact same thing at 343. But no. I think it's probably, I mean, that's just what happens with these companies. It happens all the time now. I think a lot of, that's what, like, I don't get tired of looking at, oh, there's a new battle pass in the game. Who cares? Like, I just don't buy it. But what I do get tired of is whenever I log on to a game and I see that, oh, wow, another feature for this game didn't come in, even though it obviously should have been in, for them to meet this quarterly profit deadline. It's so exhausting to know that you're playing a game that's worse because of some fucking, some executive that wants to have a better performance report so he doesn't get fired.
Park does try to sprinkle in some optimism by pointing out that the new studio boss, Pierre Hins, was part of the Master Chief Collection turnaround. That was a collection that had a very rough launch, but is now universally beloved, and so maybe...
Yeah, I remember playing the campaign on the Master Chief Collection, and the frame rate on it was pretty sluggish with the new graphics. Zach and I played it.
Pierre can steer the ship in the right direction.
I don't know if you guys said the same thing.
It doesn't change the fact that all of this is definitely going to have a negative impact on morale at the studio, and ultimately valuable talent was lost. Others who lost their job include Christopher Blom, who, according to LinkedIn, was the design lead for a number of years and has been with 343 Industries since 2012 for over a decade, but that unfortunately didn't make him immune to Microsoft's layoff crosshairs. And it goes without saying that
I think that was probably intentional. I mean, they're probably laying off people that are in key leadership positions because they think that those people in the key leadership positions are the reason why Halo Infinite didn't sell well. That's probably what happened. But that's probably not the case. And even if it is the case, it's probably a joint effort. Because think about this, okay? Can we all agree that PUBG was not ready to be released whenever it was actually released? We can all agree on this. Nobody thinks that it was ready. Microsoft, again, pushed it out because it was such a massive fucking blowout success. They pushed it out for the holiday season. So what do I think the odds are that Microsoft potentially did the exact same thing with Halo Infinite? I don't know, probably like 80%. I feel like it's very high probability. That doesn't mean that the remaining 20% doesn't lie on 343, because I think Halo 4 was like, didn't have ranked. You had like fucking loadouts in the game. Nobody wants a loadout in Halo. What the fuck? It completely changed the game. And you can go stealth into jetpacks and everything. Like, yeah, 343 fucked that up. But damn, everything that I saw about Halo Infinite was really good. It's just so sad that it just... As somebody like... You guys might not know this. Like, I read all the Halo books in high school. Like, I have Halo posters downstairs. Like, I fucking love Halo. And there's just never a reason for me to play it anymore. It sucks.
Within 343 Industries are heartbroken by these latest developments, and some developers have taken to speaking out about just the piss-poor leadership that they saw working at 343 Industries. Gene Park spotlighted Patrick Wren's tweet here, who was the former Halo senior multiplayer designer. Here's what Patrick Wren had to say about this whole situation.
Okay.
Had some pretty scathing and blunt words to share. The layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened, and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. Poor leadership ultimately being responsible for the failure of a major project should come as no surprise.
And I think obviously you have to take all of these things with a grain of salt. Big surprise that somebody whose project didn't do well is blaming somebody else for it. Okay? Everything should be taken. I assume that everything that I hear is a lie. And I think this is even more important whenever you are looking at something that you agree with. Because you have to always, you can never just take the side of somebody just because you think that they're right and you don't want them to, you want this to be true. We don't know this is true, but it seems like it, especially given the context of what Microsoft has done in the past. And overall, by the way, I think Microsoft isn't really a terrible studio. I think Game Pass is a great value. There's a lot of good things Microsoft does. There's no Xbox exclusives, really, as far as I know. A lot of W's from Microsoft. But the way that they handle releases is not one of them.
Tendency for corporations is to try to shift the blame and onus of a project's failure to employees and staff who did their best and worked the hardest they could under the piss-poor conditions that they were given.
It is possible for people to do a bad job. Don't forget that. It is possible for people to just misfire and fuck up.
The fact of the matter is that more often than not, it tends to be that poor leadership steered the ship astray and led to disastrous results. And you can see right here that a former senior developer at 343 Industries had no reservations about spotlighting this, about making sure that people know that poor leadership was to blame for Halo Infinite's failure and not the lack of talent within 343 Industries or the lack of working hard enough. It was just a poorly managed project.
I mean, I believe this probably, but I don't completely believe it, because it's like, was this also why Halo 4 and Halo 5 were bad? You know, like, was it the same thing every time? And it's like, yeah, probably to an extent it was. But still. It's because Microsoft keeps devs on 6-month contracts? Maybe that's it. I don't know anything about that. But it's just... fucking sucks, man. Like, I don't even know what they can do, because, like, this was my read on Halo Infinite. And keep in mind that I didn't really look into this all that much, but this is my read on it, is that whenever the game came out, Halo Infinite was more popular than Halo 4 and Halo 5 whenever it came out. Like, at least on Twitch and on YouTube. And it just didn't go anywhere. I feel like it was very stale. Or it became stale very fast. Excuse me.
Patrick Wren proceeded to add that the
PC
people
Halo.
I worked every day with were passionate about
Good
Halo
point, yeah.
and wanted to make something great for the fans. They helped push for a better Halo and got laid off for it. Developers still there are working hard on that dream. Look at Forge. Be kind to them during this awful time.
That
It's
sucks.
too early to say that this is going to mark the death of Halo. We'll see how things
No,
continue to
they're not
develop
gonna kill
for the
Halo.
game in the coming weeks, months, and years, even with this sort of diminished team with talent that has been stripped away. But certainly this is not going to be positively impactful. And apparently Patrick Wren is not alone in having these sentiments. Jason Schreier reports via this tweet that these strong public words mirror what he's heard from many other Halo developers. Other problems, as we have reported, included the tools and a heavy reliance on contractors who had to be let go after 18 months.
They had to be let go after what the fuck?
That Patrick Wren also complains about when another former developer who worked on Halo Infinite tweeted, "Don't forget the heavy reliance on contractors/vendors and that messed up system. Though I know that's more Microsoft, I would have loved to stay on the team if I could have and worked my way up. Still one of my favorite jobs I have been at." Patrick Wren responded with,
I feel like, and I'm not an expert with this, but I feel like with a lot of those kinds of contracts, they usually have extension like kind of provisions with like an overtime or a higher pay bonus. So I don't know if this was like something for them to avoid having them be employees. If not always, you're right about that. Maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe Microsoft didn't want to pay that extra money. There's a lot of ways that we don't really know what it is. Contract work is a sticky situation. Yeah. Here we go. They don't want to give pay benefits. Yeah, that could be it too.
oh man, the contract
It's hard
stuff
to-
is a
it's
whole other
impossible
can of
to know.
worms that pisses me off. So many amazing people and talent that just disappeared. Former developer for Halo Infinite, Nick, has no problem calling out Microsoft specifically, and below you'll find that a number of developers have responded by agreeing, saying, yup. Another developer who's not afraid to call out Microsoft is Tyler Owens here, who worked at 343 Industries during the Halo 5 era. He said, as a Halo fan, I'm really tired of Microsoft business practices and policies slowly killing the thing I love. Between the contracting policies, the abuse for tax incentives, and layoffs in the face of gigantic profit/executive bonuses, they set up Halo.
Y'all remember whenever, I don't want to mispronounce his name, one of the main executives of Nintendo publicly apologized for how bad, I think it was the Wii U, did on release and cut his own salary by 50%? Do you guys remember that? Wasn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy how that could happen? They want it? Yeah. I just don't, I don't want to pronounce it the wrong way. Think about that. So if that person from Microsoft, let's say they did that for only 20% of their salary, that is $10 million. Think about how many jobs you can keep with $10 million. And it's like, what is the difference between $40 and $50 million to you? Come on.
For failure. Many developers are just getting fed up with corporate bullshit. Tyler Owens straight up just says, I really don't care if I should be saying this or not publicly anymore. Screw it. I'm done just kind of being silent and watching all of this unfold and not being able to say anything about it. Developers are becoming less and less silent.
I love how this guy says, I'm scared that this is a glimpse of Activision Blizzard King's future with Microsoft if the acquisition goes through. Isn't this funny that this person doesn't already think that Blizzard tries to ramrod things through too early? Like how they released Overwatch 2 without the thing that made it Overwatch 2? Microsoft didn't do that. They did. Car ramrod? Yeah.
And watching all of this unfold and not being able to say anything about it. Developers are becoming less and less afraid to speak out, especially after how in recent years, after developers spoke out, tangible changes have happened. We've seen more unionization happen, so on and so forth. Now, there are those at 343 Industries who've been lucky enough to dodge the Microsoft bullet. Alex Wakeford here, who is a community writer at 343 Industries, tweeted, appreciate the concerned messages I've been receiving. I'm still at 343, but many incredible people are not. People who I was in work halls calls with as usual, not knowing it was their last one before the news hit. Those folks have contributed more to Halo than many will ever know. Now, this Twitter user I don't believe is related to Halo or 343. He's an official artist for Magic and Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot, but he did comment on the recent situation saying that Microsoft laying off 10,000 people while investing $10 billion in OpenAI is a major road sign for where we are headed. With Microsoft's...
I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, this dude, man, he's doing... He works for, obviously, like, Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, like, Magic the Gathering, D&D. This guy is probably just so fucking happy that for 1 or 2 days, it's not me. Because, you know, every other fucking day, he's been eating shit for what they were doing over at his company, so finally he can complain about something else. Legislators need to start preparing our economy to be based on UBI now, not later. Thank you, Tyler. Finally, somebody that sees more than 2 years into the future. I completely agree with Tyler. I obviously, like, this is never going to happen, and we're just going to have a new slave class whenever, you know, we have OpenAI and, you know, automation. UBI, universal basic income. It's the, like, I have an idea. This is maybe conspiracy theory. I think that most jobs are going to be made irrelevant sooner than later with automation. We're already seeing this happen. And I think that in the process of that, it will remove more jobs than it will create. However, it will create some jobs. And in the process of that, a lot of people will not be able to transfer to other types of work because those other types of work are things that they are either not trained in or do not have the capacity to do. So those people are just not going to have a job. What are they going to do? Are they going to just sit around and be homeless? We're going to have like 10, 20% of the population just be homeless? Imagine that. Like, functionally, like, that would never work. So yeah, I think that we do need like a universal basic income. I'm a very big advocate for this. Absolutely. I was part of Yang Gang, man. I was, you know, I absolutely. It's just nobody else can see it. Andrew Yang was right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't want to get into politics, right? He did a lot of other, like, kind of weird stuff, like the whole Forward Party, and like his messaging for that was like really weak. But overall, yes. Huge advocate for this. Massive advocate for this.
$10 billion in OpenAI is a major road sign for where we are headed. With Microsoft's investment in AI also being something that Bloomberg briefly highlighted in their article covering the layoffs, Microsoft said that despite the mass layoffs, they still plan to hire people in strategic, competitive areas such as artificial intelligence. The goal being to make the workforce leaner by having artificial intelligence software take over what human beings can do. Here's a 2D artist who responded to Tyler Walpole's tweet about the recent layoffs by noting how scary it is the way Microsoft is investing so much in AI. Microsoft...
Yeah, of course they're investing a lot into AI because AI is the future. You may not like that it's the future. You may not want that to be the future, but it is. That's what's going to happen. I know there's people that disagree with me on this. I can't convince you. If you take an honest look at the world and the way things have changed in the last 5 years, like, did you guys, like, I pay attention to a lot of this stuff. Do you guys keep up with, like, Boston Dynamics and, like, the type of shit that they're able to do with their robots now? If I go back and I look at the robots 5 years ago, they're not as good. Imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years. They're amazing. It's incredible. Yeah, I think about 20 years from now. Yeah, it's not even a question. I think most people that think that this is not true, they don't think it's not true. They don't want it to be true.
Headfirst into the AI game is scary as hell to look at. They've already implemented an AI generator in their graphic design software, and it almost made me not want to use Windows anymore from the rage I felt. Tyler responded by speculating that AI is going to replace most white-collar jobs in very short order. It seems
Tyler.
That's certainly a possibility. That's certainly a future that corporations would welcome. The more automated things can be, the less people they have to hire, the less they have to deal with human beings and their desire to be treated as human beings rather than as tools to be discarded.
People are annoying. They have to take bathroom breaks. They get pregnant. They have, they get cancer. They get sick. They want to take the day off for Christmas. Robots don't care about that. No, robots don't care about Christmas. You don't have to pay them extra. It's just like any other day for them. Yet,
and exploited, the less corporations have to spend and the more control they can exert over the way their company runs. And keep in mind that as far as 343 specifically is concerned, this also comes after a number of major senior departures. As Video Games Chronicle reported in a series of articles back in December of 2022, Halo Infinite's multiplayer director Tom French quit 343. Here we have an article detailing that Halo Studio 343 is reportedly losing another member of its leadership team.
So these guys are leaving.
Engineering director David Berger. This was reported back in September of 2022. Before that, we saw that 343 Industries head Bonnie Ross left 343 back in September of 2022. And even before the game...
Let's be fair. She's apparently leaving because of a family medical issue, and she wanted to deal with that. There is a chance this could have literally nothing to do with Halo. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea, but that is what it says. Cap, as somebody who was in that position, not always Cap. You hope it's Cap.
Bonnie Ross left 343 back in September of 2022. And even before the game's launch, we saw major turnover for some very important roles. Back in October of 2020, Halo Infinite lost another director. Chris Lee is no longer working on the game following its recent delay. People could just feel that there was something off about the way the studio was being managed long before.
I think what's evident, regardless of like any conjecture, something is wrong. There is something that is really wrong with how Halo is being released. Because the last 3 Halo titles have been bad. And there's people leaving the company. They haven't caught up. They're not adapting to trends. Like, you don't release 3 bad games in a row. That's horrible. There's something wrong.
Before the rough and tumultuous launch of Halo Infinite, and now following the game's launch, not only are we seeing that continue, but Microsoft's own mismanagement has led to talented and important key players in 343 getting the boot. And given that all this is happening during a low point in the Halo series, then sure, Forge helped spruce things up a bit, but we're far from Halo Infinite reaching its maximum potential. It just sucks to see all this happening on top of that, and it just raises more concerns as to whether 343 and the Halo IP can have a bright future ahead of them. But regardless of what your opinion might be on the current state of Halo or the current state of 343, the fact remains that it sucks when people lose their jobs. People who, made an earnest effort to do their best work possible under shitty circumstances. So to those people, I hope you land on your feet. I hope you find greener pastures ahead. And for the people who are still at 343 Industries, hopefully this is something that the studio can rebound from. And, we don't want to lose the Halo IP. We really want to see it return gloriously in the future. So hopefully that's something that
maybe they should have like the guys that do Destiny do Halo, since like they're both like futuristic shooter games or something. That would be pretty cool.
Happen. Only time will tell what the future will look like for 343 and Halo Infinite. In the meantime, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on these latest developments surrounding Microsoft's mass layoff that has severely impacted 343 in particular, and how you think this will impact the future of the studio and the Halo IP as a whole. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
I feel like he has to say that. Like, it doesn't even matter if he wants to or not. He just has to. Yeah, he has to say it. Let me link you guys a video. Young does really good. The reason why I like some of his videos is that he gives more of a game design as a job perspective at why different things are happening in video games, rather than this game is bad, here's why it's bad. It's who's getting fired, who's how turnover at these companies are happening, and that's why I appreciate these types of videos. This was good, man. People don't know that Bungie nowadays is not remotely close to the old Bungie. Well, of course. I mean, probably no company is close to the old company than it was 15 years ago, you know? Yeah, objective view. I think so. It's very good to see. Let me go back over. I'll read a couple of comments here. Modern gaming is starting to feel more and more like a drama now rather than actual gaming. To me, a lot of video games kind of feel almost like... They feel like Marvel movies after Endgame. It's run its course. It was great. But you just can't let it go. You just have to keep making more of them and keep going. That's the way it feels to me. Soulless? It's not soulless, but it's not soulful either. Fuck, man. Microsoft staying in a dark corner with some goons holding bats. Hit him again. Exactly. Most disgusting thing is that Microsoft isn't losing money or making less money. It's because they aren't making exponentially more money. Well, that's true. But I think it is also fair that somebody at Microsoft or 343 should be held responsible for the fact that the last 3 Halo titles, I don't think by any metric were successful. Like, I don't know even what to say about that. It's not even a question.